Have you ever felt the weight of stress and pain pressing down on you, making you wonder if there's a way to heal naturally? What if the answers you seek aren't found in medicine, but within yourself, waiting to be unlocked through the wisdom of ancient teachings? Imagine waking up each day feeling lighter, more at peace, and truly connected with your body and mind. This isn't just an abstract idea. It can become your reality. In today's fast-paced world, people often overlook the incredible power of their own minds and bodies working in harmony. They chase external solutions, searching for relief in temporary distractions, never realizing that the key to true healing has been within them all along. The wisdom of ancient traditions offers invaluable insights into this journey, offering not just relief from suffering, but a complete transformation in how one experiences life. Consider someone trapped in a cycle of daily stress, burdened by responsibilities and the pressures of work. They seek relief in quick fixes, perhaps numbing their worries with entertainment, unhealthy habits, or fleeting pleasures. But there is another path, one that does not mask discomfort, but dissolves it at its root. By embracing simple yet powerful practices such as meditation, they can learn to quiet the noise in their mind, bring awareness to their breath, and cultivate a sense of calm that radiates through their entire being. Just a few minutes of mindful breathing can reduce anxiety, restore balance, and lay the foundation for deep, lasting well-being. When people begin to explore these methods, they often discover something remarkable. The mind and body are not separate entities, but deeply interconnected. Every thought, emotion, and belief has a profound impact on one's physical state. Have you ever noticed how stress can manifest as tightness in your chest or tension in your stomach? How anger can make your heart race? How joy can make you feel lighter, almost as if a burden has been lifted? These are not coincidences. They are direct evidence of the mind-body connection at work. Understanding this relationship is crucial for true healing. Instead of simply treating symptoms, one must address the underlying causes of discomfort. Many people unknowingly feed their own suffering by clinging to negative thoughts, replaying painful memories, or worrying about things beyond their control. This cycle traps them in a state of tension and unrest, preventing them from experiencing true peace. But by cultivating mindfulness, by learning to observe thoughts without becoming entangled in them, one can break free from this cycle. Imagine yourself in a quiet space, sitting comfortably with your eyes closed. You take a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill your lungs, then exhale slowly, releasing tension with each breath. As you focus on your body, you notice areas of tightness. Perhaps your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are hunched, or your hands are balled into fists without you realizing it. With each mindful breath, you allow these areas to relax, visualizing stress melting away like ice under the warmth of the sun. This simple yet powerful exercise can have a profound effect on both physical and mental well-being. By practicing awareness, you regain control over your emotional state rather than being controlled by it. Instead of reacting impulsively to frustration or sadness, you learn to observe these emotions as temporary experiences, much like clouds drifting across the sky. They come and go, but they do not define you. One of the most transformative aspects of this journey is the practice of loving kindness. True healing does not come from self-criticism or judgment, but from compassion, both for oneself and for others. Too often, people are their own harshest critics, speaking to themselves with words they would never say to a loved one. They hold on to guilt, shame, and regret, believing that self-punishment will somehow make them better. But this only deepens suffering. Instead, imagine offering yourself words of kindness. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. These simple affirmations, when repeated with sincerity, can create a profound shift in one's inner world. As you extend these wishes outward, to loved ones, to acquaintances, even to those who have wronged you, you begin to cultivate a sense of deep connection and understanding. The more you practice loving kindness, the more you dissolve the barriers of resentment, anger, and fear, replacing them with warmth and compassion. The wisdom of mindfulness, meditation, and loving kindness extends beyond the individual. It influences how one interacts with the world. A person who is at peace within themselves moves through life differently. They are less reactive, more present, and more attuned to the needs of others. They cultivate patience rather than frustration, acceptance rather than resistance, and gratitude rather than dissatisfaction. This journey is not about perfection, nor is it about escaping difficulties. It is about embracing life fully, with all its joys and sorrows, without being overwhelmed by it. It is about understanding that healing is not a destination, but a continuous process, one that unfolds moment by moment. There will be challenges, but with each breath, with each act of mindfulness, one strengthens their ability to navigate them with grace and wisdom. A crucial aspect of this journey is how one nourishes their body, not just with food, but with thoughts, emotions, and experiences. In the same way that certain foods can either nourish or harm the body, certain thoughts and emotions can either uplift or weigh down the spirit. By being mindful of what one consumes, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, one gains the power to create a life of greater clarity and vitality. This awareness extends to daily habits, such as mindful eating. Instead of rushing through meals while distracted, one can take a moment to truly appreciate the colors, textures, and flavors of their food. Chewing slowly, savoring each bite, and expressing gratitude for the nourishment it provides. These small acts transform eating into a meditative practice, fostering both physical and emotional well-being. Another often overlooked aspect of healing is the power of movement. The body is not meant to remain stagnant, weighed down by stress and tension. Practices such as yoga or mindful walking allow one to reconnect with their physical form, to stretch, to release, to move with intention. Even the simple act of standing tall, opening the chest, and breathing deeply can create an instant shift in energy and mindset. Healing is not a one-size-fits-all process. Each person's journey is unique, shaped by their experiences, struggles, and aspirations. Some may find solace in meditation, others in mindful movement, and others in acts of service and compassion. The key is to remain open, to explore, and to trust that within every person lies the innate ability to heal. As one embraces these practices, they may begin to notice a transformation, not just in how they feel physically, but in how they perceive the world. Stress no longer has the same hold. Challenges become opportunities for growth, and moments of joy become richer and more profound. Life does not necessarily become easier, but one becomes stronger, more resilient, more capable of navigating its ups and downs with wisdom and grace. Ultimately, healing is not about escaping pain, but about understanding it. It is about seeing each experience, each emotion, each moment as part of a greater journey, one that leads not just to relief, but to deep and lasting transformation. And in that transformation lies the greatest discovery of all, that true peace, true happiness, and true healing have always been within reach, waiting to be embraced. True healing is not about erasing pain or running from discomfort. It is about understanding it, sitting with it, and allowing it to transform you. Every experience, no matter how painful, carries a lesson, a hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. But most people do not want to face their pain. They distract themselves, bury their emotions, and convince themselves that if they ignore it long enough, it will simply fade away. Yet, the more one resists, the stronger suffering becomes. Real healing happens when one stops fighting, when they choose to meet their struggles with awareness rather than avoidance. Imagine standing in a storm, the wind howling, the rain lashing against your skin. Most people instinctively tighten up, brace themselves, try to fight against the force of nature. But what if, instead, they simply let go? What if, instead of resisting, they allowed themselves to stand with the storm, to feel it fully without fear? This is the essence of healing, not resistance, but acceptance, not avoidance, but presence. The moment one stops trying to push away their pain and instead learns to sit with it, they begin to take back their power. One of the greatest causes of suffering is attachment, the tendency to hold on to things that are no longer serving us, whether it be a memory, an expectation, or a version of ourselves that no longer exists. People cling to old wounds, replaying painful moments in their minds, allowing the past to shape their present. But what they do not realize is that in holding on to the past, they are reliving it over and over again. The event may have happened once, but their mind brings it back 1,000 times, keeping them trapped in a cycle of suffering. Letting go does not mean forgetting, nor does it mean pretending that pain did not happen. It means loosening one's grip on the past and allowing it to settle, to become a chapter in the story rather than a sentence that repeats endlessly. Imagine holding onto a burning coal, the heat searing into the skin, causing unbearable pain. The solution is simple: release it. But many do not. They hold on to their suffering, not realizing that the pain they feel is not from what happened, but from their refusal to let it go. A crucial part of this process is forgiveness, not just for others, but for oneself. Many people carry the weight of their own mistakes, punishing themselves long after the moment has passed. They believe that by holding on to guilt, they are somehow making things right. But guilt does not correct the past. It only burdens the present. True forgiveness is not about excusing mistakes, but about recognizing that growth is a process, that no one is defined by a single moment. When one forgives, they are not freeing the other person. They are freeing themselves. This process requires deep self-awareness, an ability to observe one's own mind without getting lost in it. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools for this. By sitting in stillness, by turning inward and simply watching thoughts come and go, one begins to see the patterns of the mind, the worries, the fears, the old narratives that have been repeated so often they feel like truth. But the more one watches, the more they realize that thoughts are just passing clouds, not permanent truths. They come and go, but they do not define reality. Consider a person who has always believed they are not good enough. This belief may have been planted in childhood, reinforced by past experiences, whispered by their own mind so many times that it feels like an unshakable fact. But when they begin to observe their thoughts rather than blindly accept them, something shifts. They start to question, who decided this? Where did this belief come from? And if it was created, then can it not also be uncreated? This is where healing begins, not in blindly accepting every thought, but in recognizing that the mind is full of stories, and those stories can be rewritten. Another key to healing is learning to embrace impermanence. Everything in life is temporary. The joys, the sorrows, the successes, the failures. Yet people spend so much energy trying to hold on to what is fleeting, fearing change as if it were something to be avoided. But impermanence is not the enemy. It is the very thing that makes life meaningful. The flower blooms and then withers. The sun rises and then sets. Every moment is unique, never to be experienced in the exact same way again. When one truly understands this, they stop clinging. They stop fearing endings. They begin to appreciate life, not as something to be controlled, but as something to be experienced fully, without attachment. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to suffering. So often, people focus on what is missing, what is lacking, what could be better. They see the gaps rather than the abundance, the flaws rather than the beauty. But when one shifts their perspective, when they begin to truly see the countless things they have to be grateful for, their entire experience of life changes. The simple act of appreciating the breath, the warmth of the sun, the ability to move, to think, to love, these are gifts, yet they are so often overlooked. When one begins to notice them, they realize that happiness was never something to be chased. It was always within them, waiting to be recognized. Healing also requires a shift in how one views emotions. Many people see emotions as problems to be fixed, as obstacles to happiness. They try to suppress sadness, to eliminate fear, to push away anything that feels uncomfortable. But emotions are not the enemy. They are messengers. They arise to tell us something, to guide us toward understanding ourselves more deeply. Instead of resisting them, one must learn to sit with them, to ask, what is this trying to show me? A person who feels unworthy may find that their sadness is not a curse, but an invitation to look within, to find the root of that belief, to heal the wounds that have been buried. This journey is not linear, nor is it always easy. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, times when old wounds resurface. But every time one chooses awareness over reaction, every time they choose presence over avoidance, every time they choose compassion over self-criticism, they are moving forward. Healing is not about reaching a perfect state. It is about continuously choosing to grow, to understand, to evolve. One of the most beautiful aspects of healing is that it is not just personal. It ripples outward. A person who has found peace within themselves moves through the world differently. They are less reactive, more patient, more understanding. They listen more, judge less. They see others not as threats or obstacles, but as fellow travelers on the same journey. When one heals themselves, they contribute to the healing of the world, creating space for kindness, for connection, for genuine human presence. Ultimately, healing is about remembering who one truly is, beneath all the fears, the doubts, the conditioning of the past. It is about stripping away the layers of expectation and realizing that at the core, there is nothing missing, nothing broken, only a being capable of great love, great wisdom, and great transformation. And the more one embraces this truth, the more they step into their own power, no longer held back by the illusions of the mind, but free to experience life fully as it was always meant to be. True transformation does not happen overnight, nor does it come from merely understanding concepts on an intellectual level. Real change happens when one begins to embody the wisdom they have learned, when they shift from knowing to experiencing, from thinking to living. Many people seek healing as if it is something to be achieved, as if it is a finish line they can cross. But healing is not a destination. It is a way of being, a lifelong process of unlearning what no longer serves and making space for what brings clarity, peace, and strength. One of the greatest barriers to healing is resistance. People hold on to their suffering because in many ways it has become familiar. Even pain, when held long enough, begins to feel like home. The mind clings to old narratives, to past wounds, to the idea that things must be a certain way. But what if, instead of resisting, one allowed themselves to soften? What if they stopped clenching their fists, stopped bracing for impact, stopped carrying burdens that were never theirs to bear? Imagine a river flowing effortlessly, bending around rocks, moving past obstacles without struggle. The water does not resist. It simply finds a new path. But when something tries to control it, to force it into a rigid shape, it becomes stagnant, losing its natural rhythm. This is how suffering works. The more one tries to force life into a specific form, the more they resist the natural flow, the more they suffer. But the moment they let go, the moment they trust that they can move with life rather than against it, something shifts. The weight lessens, the struggle fades, and what remains is a deep sense of peace, not because life has become perfect, but because they have stopped fighting what is. One of the most profound realizations on the path to healing is that pain itself is not the cause of suffering. Resistance to pain is. People fear discomfort, avoiding it at all costs, trying to numb themselves with distractions, with busyness, with external validation. But pain, when met with awareness, has the power to transform. It is not something to run from, but something to understand. It is a teacher, pointing to the places that need attention, the wounds that need care. Consider a person who has been carrying resentment for years, holding on to the pain of betrayal, replaying the moment over and over in their mind. They may believe that by holding on to it, they are protecting themselves, ensuring they will never be hurt again. But in reality, they are not punishing the person who hurt them. They are only imprisoning themselves. Resentment does not shield, it chains. And the only way to free oneself is to release the grip, to allow the past to be the past, rather than reliving it in the present. This is why self-awareness is so important. Healing begins with noticing how one speaks to themselves, how they react to challenges, how they hold on to things that no longer serve them. Most people live on autopilot, unaware of the thoughts and emotions that shape their experience. But the moment one begins to observe, to witness their own patterns without judgment, they create space for transformation. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not just seeing a reflection, but truly looking at the thoughts, the beliefs, the ways in which one has been holding themselves back. It is not always easy to face oneself in this way, but it is necessary. Growth begins where awareness begins. The more one observes their thoughts, the more they realize they are not their thoughts. The more they observe their emotions, the more they understand that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. This is the foundation of inner peace, not eliminating pain, but understanding that pain does not define them. Another essential part of healing is learning to be fully present. So many people live trapped in the past or anxious about the future, missing the only moment that truly exists, the present one. They replay past mistakes, regret missed opportunities, dwell on what could have been, or they project forward, worrying about things that have not yet happened, creating scenarios in their minds that may never come to pass. But the past is unchangeable, and the future is uncertain. The only place where life is truly lived is in the present. Imagine holding a cup of tea, feeling its warmth in your hands, noticing the steam rising, the aroma filling the air. In this simple moment, there is no past, no future, only now. This is mindfulness, the practice of bringing full attention to the present moment, of being here rather than lost in the mind. And the more one cultivates this practice, the more they realize that peace is not something to be found, it is something to return to. It has always been here, waiting beneath the noise of the mind. Breath is one of the simplest yet most powerful anchors to the present. It is always available, always steady, always bringing one back to themselves. In times of stress, in moments of uncertainty, simply returning to the breath, feeling the inhale, the exhale, the rhythm of life moving through the body, can create an instant shift. It is a reminder that no matter what is happening externally, there is always a place of stillness within. Another aspect of healing that many overlook is the power of surrender. People are taught to control, to plan, to prepare, believing that the more they try to manage life, the safer they will be. But control is an illusion. Life is unpredictable, ever-changing, moving in ways that no one can foresee. And the more one tries to hold on to certainty, the more anxious they become. True peace comes not from controlling life, but from trusting it. This does not mean passivity or inaction. It means doing what one can, making the best choices available, but then releasing attachment to the outcome. It means trusting that even when things do not go as planned, even when life takes an unexpected turn, there is still purpose, still something to be learned, still something valuable in the experience. The need for control creates stress. The willingness to trust creates freedom. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who one has always been beneath the fears, the doubts, the conditioning of the past. It is about stripping away the layers of expectation, the need for validation, the belief that worth is something to be earned. It is about realizing that at the core, there is nothing missing, nothing broken, only a being capable of incredible growth, wisdom, and love. As one embraces this truth, they begin to move through life differently. They stop seeing challenges as obstacles and start seeing them as opportunities to grow. They stop resisting change and start flowing with it. They stop looking outside themselves for happiness and start recognizing that everything they have ever needed has been within them all along. And this is where true freedom lies. Not in achieving a perfect state, not in eliminating all difficulties, but in learning to walk through life with an open heart, unafraid of what may come, knowing that no matter what happens, they have the strength, the wisdom, and the resilience to face it. Healing is not the end of suffering. It is the transformation of suffering into wisdom. And once one understands this, They are no longer at the mercy of life's uncertainties. They become the author of their own experience, not by controlling what happens, but by choosing how they respond. Not by avoiding pain, but by embracing it as part of the journey. And in this understanding, in this deep, unwavering acceptance of life as it is, they find something they may not have even been searching for: peace. Healing is not about escaping pain or avoiding discomfort. It is about walking straight into it with open eyes and an open heart. It is about understanding that every struggle, every hardship, every difficult emotion is a doorway to deeper self-awareness. Most people resist pain, fearing that it will consume them. But the paradox is that the more one resists, the more suffering they create. True healing begins when one stops fighting their own experience and instead learns to sit with it, to breathe through it, to allow it to be without judgment. Imagine carrying a heavy bag filled with stones, each one representing an old wound, a painful memory, a regret, a fear. For years, the weight of this bag has pressed down on your shoulders, making every step harder, every breath heavier. You have become so used to this burden that you no longer question it. You simply carry it because you always have. But what if, instead of dragging this weight forward, you stopped and opened the bag? What if you looked at each stone, held it in your hands, and asked yourself if you still needed to carry it? What if you realized that many of these burdens were never truly yours to bear? This is what healing asks of you. Not to ignore your pain, not to push it away, but to face it with curiosity and compassion. To ask, what is this trying to teach me? Rather than, how can I get rid of this? Because pain is not the enemy. It is a messenger, a signal, a guide. When you stop seeing it as something to escape and start seeing it as something to learn from, everything changes. One of the most powerful ways to begin this process is through self-inquiry. Most people move through life accepting their thoughts and emotions as absolute truth without ever questioning them. They assume that if they feel unworthy, they must be unworthy. If they feel hopeless, they must be hopeless. But feelings are not facts, and thoughts are not reality. They are simply conditioned responses shaped by past experiences, by old narratives, by things learned long ago that may no longer serve them. Imagine a child who grows up being told they are not good enough. Over time, this belief becomes woven into the fabric of their mind, coloring every experience, shaping how they see themselves. As they grow older, they do not question it. They simply accept it as truth. Even when others offer kindness, even when they accomplish something great, that voice in their head whispers, "It's not enough. You're still not enough." But what if they stopped and asked, is this really true? Who decided this? And if this belief was created, can it not also be undone? Self-inquiry is the act of challenging the stories the mind has repeated for years. It is the process of stepping back and asking, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Does this belief bring me peace or suffering? And if it brings suffering, why am I holding on to it? The moment one begins to question their own mind, they create the possibility for transformation. They realize that they are not their thoughts, not their fears, not their past. They are something deeper, something far more powerful than any temporary belief or emotion. Another essential part of healing is learning to sit with discomfort rather than reacting to it. Most people are conditioned to avoid pain at all costs. The moment they feel anxious, they reach for their phone, turn on the TV, distract themselves with anything that will pull them away from the discomfort. But distraction does not heal. It only postpones. The more one runs from their emotions, the more power those emotions gain. But when one learns to sit in stillness, to observe their emotions without judgment, something incredible happens. The emotions lose their grip. They no longer have control. Imagine sitting in a dark room, feeling fear rise up inside you. Your instinct is to turn on the light, to escape the darkness. But what if, instead, you simply sat there? What if you allowed the darkness to be? What if you observed the fear without feeding it, without trying to push it away? You would begin to realize that the darkness itself is not the problem. It is only your resistance to it that makes it feel unbearable. The moment you stop resisting, you see that fear is just another passing visitor, not a permanent truth. This is why meditation is such a powerful tool. It teaches the mind to remain steady in the face of discomfort, to observe rather than react, to find peace even in moments of chaos. With each breath, with each moment of stillness, one builds the ability to remain grounded, to respond to life with clarity rather than impulsiveness. And over time, this practice creates a fundamental shift, not in life itself, but in how one experiences life. The challenges do not disappear, but one's ability to face them becomes unshakable. Another crucial aspect of healing is self-compassion. Most people are far kinder to others than they are to themselves. They speak to their friends with understanding, offering comfort and reassurance, yet they criticize themselves mercilessly for every perceived flaw, every mistake, every shortcoming. But what if one began to treat themselves with the same kindness they extend to others? What if, instead of self-judgment, they practice self-forgiveness? Consider a child learning to walk. When they fall, no one scolds them. No one tells them they are a failure. They are encouraged to get up, to try again, to keep moving forward. Yet as adults, people hold themselves to impossible standards, expecting perfection, berating themselves for every stumble. But growth is not about never falling. It is about getting up, about learning, about continuing to move forward despite the stumbles. True self-compassion is understanding that mistakes are not failures, but stepping stones on the path of growth. Forgiveness is another vital part of the healing process, not just forgiving others, but forgiving oneself. Many people carry the weight of past regrets, punishing themselves for choices they made when they did not yet know what they know now. But the purpose of regret is not to keep one trapped in guilt. It is to guide them toward growth. If one has learned from their mistakes, if they have become wiser because of them, then they have already transformed the past into something valuable. Holding on to guilt does not change what has been. It only steals the peace of the present. Healing is also about understanding the nature of impermanence. Everything in life, joy, sorrow, success, failure, is temporary. Nothing remains the same forever. Wa zrinya. And this truth is both beautiful and freeing. People suffer when they try to hold on to what is meant to change, when they fear endings, when they resist the natural flow of life. But the moment one embraces impermanence, they begin to move through life with ease rather than resistance. They appreciate moments as they come, knowing they will not last forever. They do not fear change because they understand that just as difficulties arise, they will also pass. This understanding leads to a deep sense of gratitude. When one truly grasps that every moment is fleeting, They stop taking things for granted. They savor the warmth of the sun on their skin, the laughter of a loved one, the simple act of breathing. They realize that happiness is not found in chasing the next big thing, but in fully experiencing what is already here. And the more one practices gratitude, the more they see that even in the most challenging moments, there is always something to be thankful for. Healing is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming whole. It is about realizing that nothing was ever missing, that beneath the fears, the doubts, the conditioning of the past, there has always been a being of immense strength, wisdom, and love. It is about remembering who one truly is, not by adding anything new, but by letting go of everything that was never truly them. And in that letting go, they find the greatest freedom of all, not freedom from pain, but freedom within it. Not freedom from imperfection, but the understanding that imperfection itself is what makes life so beautifully real. Healing is not about erasing the past or pretending that pain never existed. It is about embracing the full spectrum of human experience, the light and the dark, the joy and the sorrow, the lessons hidden within suffering. Many people believe that healing means reaching a place where they will never feel sadness, fear, or disappointment again. But this is an illusion. Life will always contain challenges, loss, and uncertainty. True healing is not about avoiding these things, but about developing the strength to navigate them with wisdom and grace. Imagine walking through a dense forest. The path is uneven, filled with roots and stones, and at times it is so dark that you cannot see what lies ahead. Some people would turn back, afraid of what they might encounter. Others would stand frozen, waiting for the path to clear on its own. But the ones who understand healing keep walking. They do not demand that the road be smooth. They simply take each step as it comes. They trust that even in the darkness, they can find their way. One of the greatest misconceptions about healing is the idea that it is a straight path, that once progress is made, there will be no more struggles. But healing is cyclical. There will be moments of clarity where everything feels aligned, and then moments of doubt where old wounds resurface, where emotions that were thought to be resolved return. Many people mistake these setbacks as signs of failure, believing they have undone all their progress, but this is not true. Healing does not move in a straight line, it spirals. Each time a familiar pain arises, it is an opportunity to meet it with greater awareness, to respond to it differently, to release it on a deeper level than before. Consider the ocean. Some days, the waters are calm, the surface smooth and undisturbed. Other days, the waves crash with force, unpredictable and relentless. But beneath the surface, in the depths, there is always stillness. This is what healing teaches, not how to stop the waves, but how to find the stillness beneath them. One of the most powerful practices in healing is learning to sit with discomfort. Most people react to difficult emotions by trying to escape them through distraction, avoidance, or numbing behaviors. But emotions are like visitors. They arrive with a message, and if ignored, they only knock louder. Instead of running, one can learn to invite them in, to ask, "What are you here to show me?" When sadness arises, instead of pushing it away, one can sit with it, breathe into it, allow it to be. When anger flares up, instead of suppressing it, one can observe it, listen to it, understand what it is pointing to. The more one practices this, the less control emotions have over them. Instead of being ruled by emotions, they become the observer, learning from them rather than reacting impulsively. This awareness extends to the mind as well. So much suffering comes not from external events, but from the thoughts people attach to those events. Two people can experience the same situation. One may feel devastated, while the other remains unaffected. The difference is not in the event itself, but in the interpretation. The mind creates stories, attaching meaning to things that may not be true. Healing involves recognizing these patterns, stepping back, and asking, is this thought helping me or hurting me? Is this belief true?